Many students struggle with what we call modal verbs. Words such as can, could, would, should. These verbs are also sometimes called helping verbs because they modify another verb. In this video, we're going to discuss how to use each one by using them in sentences. Some of these words have multiple meanings, which can also make it confusing. So let's take a look at some of these modal verbs. Modal verbs are used in English writing, but can sometimes be difficult for ESL students. So let's talk about modal verbs. Here's a list of modal verbs that are used in our English writing. Can and could, will and would, may, might, must, should, and ought. Now, before we talk about each of these modal verbs, there are some things we need to know about how to write these types of verbs. Modal verbs do not add an S after the third person singular. Now, with most English verbs, we add an S to the verb when we use he, she, or it. So, for example, I make a cake becomes she makes a cake. We need to add an S to the word make when we use he, she, it, or the third person singular. But when we use modal verbs, such as in this example, I can make a cake, the third person singular does not change. She can make a cake. We do not need an S after the word make when we use modal verbs such as can. Now, this is true also for the question form. Can she make a cake? Now, modal verbs are used to show different things about a verb. It can show a possibility, like in the sentence, I can study, or it may be a suggestion or some advice, as in, I should study, or it may be obligation, I must study, or sometimes when we want to show intention, as in, I will study. There are several different ways that modal verbs are used. So let's start looking at some of these different ways we use modal verbs. One form is to use them to show certainty, that something will happen. It's for certain. We use words like will or would, or sometimes we use the word can. Let's look at a few examples with these words. The word will can be used in this way. It will rain all day tomorrow. The word will here shows that the rain is a certain thing. And in this sentence, unfortunately, John will be late for the meeting. Here we're showing that the certainty of John being late. We know he's going to be late. When we use the word would, we can say something like this. He said he would be there by 10 o'clock. Again, this shows certainty. We can also use the word can in the same way. I can go with you on Saturday. Now, this shows that I will go with you for certain. We can also use modal verbs to show possibility or impossibility. We can use the words could or may, might, and must. Now, the word could is used to show something will be possible. The words cannot and could not are used to show that they are impossible. The word can be used for general statements about what is possible. And may, might, and could can be used to show possible but not certain. So these are the different ways that we can use modal verbs to show possibility. Let's look at some examples. He might eat something later. This means that there's a possibility he will eat something later. She could swim that far if she wanted to. Again, this shows the possibility that it is possible that she could swim that far. He is shaking. He must be cold. Here, the word must shows that there is a possibility that he is cold. The words can be can also be used to show a possibility. In this sentence, that person can be dangerous. Here, the words can be means that sometimes that person is dangerous because they have previous experience, so they know it's possible that they could be dangerous. But it's just sometimes, not always. There is a possibility that they can be dangerous. And we can use the words may, might, could be in this way. That person may be dangerous, or that person might be dangerous, or that person could be dangerous. Now, in this case, perhaps that person is dangerous, but we're not sure. We don't know. We don't have previous experience about that, but there is the possibility. This is how we use these words. Now, to show that something might be impossible, we can use the words can't and cannot. He can't come on Saturday. Or she cannot be serious. Now, for an event in the past, we use can't have or couldn't have. Here's an example. He can't have done it. He was asleep. Or they couldn't have passed the test so quickly. So now we've talked about how modal verbs can show certainty, possibility, or impossibility. Now let's talk about how they can be used to show ability. We can use the words can or could to show ability. Somebody or something is able to do something. With the words can or could, we can say something like this. He can eat a lot of food. Or she could swim for 2 hours. They could not come to visit this time. Here, the words can and could show that something or someone is able to do something. Here's another way that modal verbs can be used. They can be used to ask or give permission. Can or could, may, might, must can be used in this way. Let's first look at the words may and can. Can I call you back later? This is asking for permission. A more polite or formal way to ask for permission is to use the word may, as in, may I help you? We can also use the negative form. You cannot come in here. This is telling them that they do not have permission to enter. Or, you may not go past this line. So this is how we can use modal verbs to ask or give permission. There's another form of modal verb where we give advice or suggestions. Now, here we use the words should, may, might, must, and ought to. Let's first look at should and must. He should eat more healthy foods. Now, this is giving somebody some advice or a suggestion. She shouldn't go by herself. Now, again, this is advice that they're giving this person. They mustn't stay out too late. Now, the word must is stronger than the word should and is something that they should listen to more carefully. She must stop smoking or she may die. So when you use should, it's more like a suggestion, and when you use must, it's closer to a command type of suggestion or advice. Now we can also ask a question such as this. Should I go to see that doctor? Now here you're asking for some advice or a suggestion. And here's one more way that we can use modal verbs, the words ought to. She ought to see a doctor. The words ought to is a strong type of suggestion or advice somewhere between should and must. Here's another example. He is so talented, he ought to go into acting. Now, the word ought must be followed by an infinitive. So, for example, ought to give, ought to go, ought to study. This is how we need to use this word. Now, there are other ways that modal verbs can be used, so let's look at some of those. The words may have, might have, or could have are used to make guesses about the past. I haven't received your package. It may have got lost in the mail. Here we're guessing that the package may have gotten lost. It's past 10 o'clock. They might have gone to sleep already. Here we're guessing that they may have gone to sleep. Where are they? They could have lost their way. Again, here we're guessing that they may have lost their way. We sometimes use modal verbs to predict something. For example, the words will or may. He will eat more healthy foods from now on. Here we're predicting that in the future, he will eat more healthy foods. Sales may increase after the new commercial. Again, this is a prediction. Now, the word must is used in a variety of ways. So we can use must when we're sure of something and have reasons for believing it's true. He worked all day. He must be very tired. Or, he broke his arm yesterday. It must hurt. Now, here the word must is something that we're sure of because we know it's true. Well, we also use the word must to show obligation, something you should do. He must find a job or he will not be able to pay his bills. Now, in addition, we can use must as an order, as in, you must go to bed by 10. As you can see, the word must is used in a variety of ways, and you need to be careful and learn how to use it well. Now, we use the word could to make general statements about the past. It could be very hot there in summer. By that, we mean that it has often been very hot there in summer, so it could be. You could have easily booked a hotel with them. Now, here we mean that people often book a hotel with them, and it's very easy. We use the word should when we want to suggest something is true and have reasons for believing it is true. As in, ask the teacher, he should know the answer. Or, the plane has arrived, we should see them soon. Here we're suggesting that we have reasons for believing that we should see him soon. The words must have and should have are used for things that have happened in the past. He must have been tired after working all day. Or, they should have arrived by now. So as you can see, there are many ways that we can use these modal verbs in English. Some of the confusion is that some words can be used with different meanings. The words can and could sometimes mean certainty and sometimes mean ability. The word must has many different ways that it can be used in a sentence. So the more you use these modal verbs, the better you'll know how to use them correctly. Happy writing! And be sure to check out my workbooks that are designed to be used along with these videos.